Somebody asked me to do a video on this because I've been here in Japan for 20 years now. I first arrived April 13th, 1989, and now this is July 13th, 2009. I did take a year and a half off recently to go back to the United States, but basically I've been here for 20 years, and I've built a life here. I've had quite a few experiences here, very unique actually. I came to Japan not knowing really anything. I was married to a Japanese woman, and we had a 5-year-old son. And after serving in the military for 6 years, my Japanese wife wanted to go back to Japan to live. And she and my 5-year-old son went ahead of me. And I came a few months later, and I began my life in Japan. And most foreigners, a vast majority of them, are involved in the English teaching business. What was very interesting in 1989 was Japan was in the middle of their bubble, and I mean there was money to burn, so to speak. For example, anytime you would go out and you would teach a company class or maybe work for someone, you would get about 4,000 to 5,000 yen per hour. That'd be about 40 or 50 US dollars per hour to teach a class with basically no training, no background. You know, as long as you were a native speaker of English, you could pretty much land a position. And it was very interesting because I was teaching many company classes, and you know they would take you out occasionally on the town and be going pub hopping, and there was just a whole lot of money floating around Japan. The entertainment business was just totally wild at that time, and it was a very interesting time. I began working part-time, teaching several company classes for another company, and I worked for a company called TCLC, Tokyo Gaiku Center. Excellent company. As a matter of fact, I'm still affiliated with them. If our schedules match, I can go take a class. But I haven't for quite some time. So they call me for intensives. And I supported myself doing that, and I began gathering students in my home. Not necessarily for a school, you know, just a Saturday type of thing. One kid's class, one adult's class, one junior high school class, and that worked very well. I went to work full-time at an English conversation school for about 9 months, but I was fired. And it kind of started a pattern of of a lot of bad luck, actually. I was fired. I was just brought in suddenly. I had no idea what was coming, and they had made up some lies about me. You know, maybe regarding you were making sexual advances to the young office girls, which of course I wasn't. I was always a family man, and you know, one man, one woman lifetime. I don't, not very interested in that. But you know, they wanted to fire me, and you know, they basically did. I mean, obviously, if I was I didn't want to work with people like that, so I said, okay, I'm out of here. And a year later, the person that fired me said, "Oh, I was given bad information. I'm really sorry." And you know, he took me out for some spaghetti and some beer, and you know, we're all fine with that. And but yeah, I was very shocked by being fired. I mean, it hurt me quite a bit, so much that I didn't want to go out to work for anybody. I just couldn't trust anybody because I knew I didn't do anything wrong. And I began gathering students in my house, you know, just continued on. And I got up to 55 students in my home. And when I walked out of the room I taught in, and I saw these mothers waiting for their children at the kitchen table, and I couldn't place their name, like whose mother, whose child. I knew it was getting too weird because I lived there and I didn't know who these ladies were at my kitchen table. So 55 students was plenty enough to open up an English conversation school. So I rented a old building that I actually had to do quite a bit of the clean myself, and it was on the same plot of property. And I did that, and it it grew very, very quickly. And as soon as I opened up the office, I didn't have a name for my school, and my name was O'Leary. And just by coincidence, we were helping with somebody with some translation. I mean, a big company, and we had to make out a receipt. And just without a whole lot of thinking, we had just come up with the name O'Leary Geigo Systems, which means O'Leary Language Systems, and that's been the name ever since. And like I said, we started with 55 students, but it wasn't very long until, without a whole lot of effort on my part, we just grew to 100 students because this was the beginning. This was still in the bubble period, and we were in the right place. We had just the right population of people in that area, and I began doing some training, and I learned a method, and it basically exploded my schools. I I began teaching larger groups of kids, so I could reduce the price, and that was a really good business idea because what's most important when building an English conversation school is not necessarily what the parents who actually pay for it think. It's what the kids themselves think, and if their friends go to school there, it could be a mediocre school and it could be an excellent school, but if their friends are there, they're usually going to stick around. And by increasing the amount of students in the class and being able to teach a larger group effectively, the students all had their friends there. There was adequate number of girls in one class and boys in one class, so you didn't have the girl-boy problem that I did have when I was teaching in my home. I had 4 students per group, and I'd get 3 boys and 1 girl, and it'd get real weird, and they didn't want to. The one boy didn't want to come to school. So that really opened up my business. And I got up to about 120, 130 students, and we got a chance to buy a piece of property that was actually 3 floors. And I'm going to talk about that in the next segment.